Well, hey everybody, it's Joe Pro, and welcome back to the channel. Sorry, it has been quite a bit since I've been frequently uploading, but there is good news on the horizon, which is that I have a big Paper Mario related video presentation for you all here in the next few weeks. But in the meantime, wanted to do a casual video today. If you haven't noticed or seen yet, the channel did pass 5,000 subscribers a few weeks ago. So that's been really exciting to see since coming back to the channel about a year ago. It is pretty much doubled in subscriber count since then. So yeah, very excited to see. So I would love to share my top 25 games with you all today. Now, originally, I was going to be working on this project for 5K subs, which was going to feature LEGO Joe Pro exploring many different Nintendo locations, like the Great Deku Tree and Paper Mario's house and so on. And so I will show some of the not fully finished edits of these clips. I did complete the filming, but I never did any of the voice work, and the final editing was not done. Unfortunately, I didn't really want to finish the project and wasn't too excited by it. So, alright, so yeah, just gonna jump into my top 25 games, gonna go through some honorable mentions, and let's just do it. By the way, I need to thank you all. If you're subscribing and one of the over 5,000 now, that means a lot to me. This is a fun hobby for me to do on the side, and even though a lot of the projects don't come to fruition or release, and the reception and the amount of views is not what I would like, I really do appreciate each and every one of you that are listening right now. Alright, so top 25 games. Let's go through just a few honorable mentions real quickly. Mario Party 3, Mario Party 6, and Mario Party Superstars for the Switch. Those are my three favorite Mario Party games. Would love to include them in the top 25, but not really a lot of multiplayer in the top 25, so knocking out most of the multiplayer here in the honorable mentions. Also, Rayman Legends, Paper Mario the Origami King, Zelda Skyward Sword, Majora's Mask, Donkey Kong Country Returns, The Last of Us, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and Super Mario Bros. 3. Those are my honorable mentions that I could just barely not quite fit into my top 25 this time. In 25th is Splatoon 2. Now this one has fallen back quite a bit the last few years. Probably would have been closer to 20 or 17 or so a couple years ago, but unfortunately, I used to love playing this game. I played it all the time, and when Splatoon 3 came out, everybody stopped playing Splatoon 2, and so matchmaking is basically impossible. And I did buy Splatoon 3, and I just really couldn't get into it. It was just the same game, but I didn't like the interface and the menus, and I know that's an unpopular opinion because objectively they are better for matchmaking and so on, but I just personally liked Splatoon 2 and just wanted to play Splatoon 2, and I basically can't play Splatoon 2 anymore, hence why it is now at 25. In 24 is a new game to my list, and that is Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which is an incredible 2D platformer, one of my absolute favorites, as you will soon see, and I actually need to replay it. I've only played through the game one time, but it was such a joy that I'm hoping to replay this again soon. In 23rd is an exceptional video game, and that is Metroid Prime. It actually is the only Prime game that is making my list this time. I'm not a huge fan of Prime 2 and Prime 3, but Metroid Prime 1, especially the recent remaster on the Switch, is an exceptional adventure and easily should make my top 25. Okay, now 22 is Celeste, and yeah, Celeste is one of my absolute favorite games ever. Definitely a top indie game, one of my favorite games not made by Nintendo, and it is an exceptionally amazing 2D platformer. The music, the pixel graphics, the story, the very challenging gameplay that's also addictive. The controls, I mean, it's really perfect. I mean, honestly, there's really no room for improvement with this game. It's just that the games above this, I'm either nostalgic for, or they're a little bit bigger in scale and scope, you know, hence your 3D Marios and Zeldas and such. But Celeste really is pretty much a perfect game, and you should play it if you have not already. 21 is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. This one's tough. Like, I mean, I had to include it because it's one of my most played games. I play it all the time with my friends, and it's so fun. And that's the thing about Smash, is it's just fun, and it's competitive, and it's exciting, and gets your heart rate going. But you know, it doesn't have a story. It doesn't have as much heart and soul. It doesn't make me get like emotional because of the way it ends, you know. Unless I lose badly, then I get a little emotional. But yeah, so I mean, I wanted to include it, but it is multiplayer, and so it just isn't quite as high as it otherwise would be. In 20th is another third-party / indie game. I think it counts as an indie game here, but that is Inside. Inside by Playdead is such a fascinating and unique, fresh spin on the action adventure puzzle genre, and it's just the mood, the atmosphere, the art direction, and the music is incredible. The first time I played this game, I was like scared the entire time, and it just put me on edge, and I was so intrigued, and I love it so much. I replay it every year around Halloween, and it's just an extraordinary game. So I'm really excited for hopefully Playdead's new game this year or next year, but it's been like, what, 7 or 8 years since Inside, and we still don't really know much about the next game, so very excited to see more. In 19th is The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. I don't have much to say on this one. It used to be probably my favorite 3D Zelda. It continues to drop down and down in the rankings. I still think it's fantastic. I mean, it's a timeless game. The soundtrack, the story is fantastic, but it's not really a game I want to keep replaying again and again. Whereas some of the later games further in this list are games that I could just come back to time and time again, forever and ever. In 18th is Pikmin 3. Pikmin 1 and 2 are not on this list, and Pikmin 3 used to be my favorite Pikmin game. In some ways, I still kind of feel like it is, but obviously Pikmin 4 is going to be higher on this list, so it's not currently... Pikmin 3 is not currently my favorite, but I do think it has the best story. I think it has the best characters, and yeah, I mean, everything about Pikmin 3 is really amazing. It's one of my favorite games, and I wish I could have placed it higher, but I just can't. And part of that is because in 17 is Super Mario Odyssey. So this one, you know, I love it. I love Mario Odyssey. And if you've been around on the channel for a while, you know, like my most successful videos were about Mario Odyssey, and I was obsessed with that game. And I want to rank it higher because it is very good, but, you know, and I could talk about why it's good. You know, the level variety, the world design, the controls, the music, the graphics, etc. The thing is I've never actually 100%ed this game, which is weird for me because almost every game on this list in this top 25 I've 100%ed, and especially every 3D Mario and every 2D Mario. And this is the only Mario game pretty much ever, I think, including the platformers, the RPGs, etc., that I haven't 100%ed, and that's just because it's boring to try to get every little moon and narrow down which ones you've already, you know, picked up and which ones you haven't. And so yeah, I don't know. I think the sandbox, the open sandbox, is good, but I'm excited for the next 3D Mario to make it even better, because to me, Odyssey is nowhere near as good as the Galaxy games and Sunshine and 64. In 16th is Nintendo Land. Now this one, again, multiplayer with some single-player modes. I did want to place this quite a bit higher. I'm very nostalgic for it. The idea of sitting around with friends playing Mario Chase is one of my favorite things to do. But, you know, if you don't have a good group of friends around, or if, you know, then like... then this game isn't as good, and then it wouldn't even be top 25. So it really is dependent more on who is playing it, and that you're playing in person than the game itself. And so it's more of an experience than a game in itself. And because of that, I think 16 is about fair. I do love it, but it can't really compete with all the masterpieces that are still to come. All right, the top 15, and in 15th is my favorite Metroid game, and that is Metroid Dread. Yeah, I mean, this is another one that's just crazy. Fun fact about me is that Metroid Dread's higher than Metroid Prime, which is kind of insane because I don't like 2D Metroid games, but yet I love Dread. It's the only Metroid 2D game that I've ever completed, and I like it more than the best 3D game. So that just says a lot about the atmosphere, the controls. I mean, they're so smooth. The visuals, the controls, it's such an exceptionally good game. It was a game I wasn't even gonna get, and then everybody loved it, and then I was like, okay, I'll get it, and I was sure I was gonna hate it, and somehow, surprisingly, I love it. It's a top 15 game. And 14th is going to be The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. Now, this is another one that's dropped down a little bit in the last few years, just because it is a little bit redundant and tedious to replay from time to time. But, I mean, the game experience is so great. Man, like, everything about it, the visuals, the music, the story, the character design, it's all so fantastic. I would say where Wind Waker is held back for me is, the Triforce quest at the end. The Forsaken Fortress is extremely tedious to explore, especially like the first time you go through it. But then each time you have to go back, it's so stale, it's so boring. The dungeon design isn't that great, it's fine. So yeah, I mean, Wind Waker kind of in the middle of my list here. I wish I could put it in top 10, but there's just a few things holding it back that I'm not too keen on. Now, 13 and 12 are Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2. I tend to go back and forth a lot about which one I do like more. For pretty much my entire life, I would tell you I liked Galaxy 2 more than Galaxy 1, and the reason for that was mostly because of the level design, because Mario kind of moves around a little bit quicker, a little snappier, and also the difficulty is higher in Galaxy 2. And I still do feel that way, is that Galaxy 2 has the better gameplay, which I don't think is an unpopular or divisive opinion by any means. But Super Mario Galaxy 1, of course, has the better story, kind of the better originality. Yeah, I wouldn't say better music, I guess, necessarily. I mean, I think there are some better tracks in Galaxy 1 and then some better ones in Galaxy 2, so it's really tight. But in this instance of my list, in this iteration, I'm going to go with Galaxy 2 in 13th, and then with the original game in 12. And it really is just because of the hub world of the Cosmic Observatory, because it was the first game, and so it was more innovative, and because of the better story. There's one more thing too about this that I didn't realize till recently, but Galaxy 2, most of the worlds and the levels tend to be like in an atmosphere a lot more, so they have like clouds and a sky, and the sun, and that's cool, but I feel like I like the Galaxy 1 sense of like isolation and atmosphere quite a bit more. It feels very lonely. You feel like you're in space for almost every level in the game, except for a few, and I think that's another thing that kind of boosted Galaxy 1 this time around. Alright, and 11 is Pikmin 4, my favorite Pikmin game as of this list, but I'm sure it'll flip-flop again when I play them. But Pikmin 4 is just so great because it perfects the gameplay, and the controls are pretty good, although it has the stupid lock-on problems. The levels, the worlds, especially the caves and like special challenges, Dandori challenges, are so great. The amount of content in this game is unmatched, unprecedented in the Pikmin series, and so I did want to go ahead and put it up at number 11, which makes it really, really highly rated, one of my favorite games of all time. I think that makes it my highest Nintendo Switch game. Yeah, no, it does. Like highest Switch exclusive, at least. It's not like a remake or something like that. So, yeah, no, a fantastic game. I only wish that the characters were a little better, and like to me, making your own captain or rescue club person just doesn't. I don't know. It's not the same. I would rather use Louis and Alf and Brittany and Olimar and etc. But it's a great game. I love it so much. All right, in 10th place, starting the top 10, in 10th is my favorite 3D Zelda, which is Twilight Princess. I think that this game it stands the test of time. I find a lot of 3D Zelda games are not very replayable, and I guess this one's kind of not too, because of the bloated opening and then a lot of the filler content later in the game. But as far as replaying the dungeons and re-experiencing the story and just kind of being in the game world, I think Twilight Princess is the most digestible to play again and again over time. And I think that is just a testament to how great the characters are and how great the level design of the dungeons are. And I don't know, just something about this game. I think for a lot of people, it was an underdog a few years ago, and a lot of people are acknowledging and respecting it more and more recently for how great it is. Because to me, it is, again, the best 3D Zelda. It has drawbacks, but they all do. But I think Twilight is the best overall mix of what makes a good 3D Zelda game. And funny enough, in 9th place is my favorite Zelda game, which is A Link Between Worlds for the 3DS. I'm not a huge fan of 2D Zelda, so this is the only one on my list, but kind of similar to Metroid Dread, I love Link Between Worlds. I think it's such a phenomenal game. The controls, the visuals, the music, the story, the dungeons are so fun, and just exploring and getting to be in this game world is such a highlight for me. And best of all, it's just infinitely replayable. I can play this every year, and it's not bloated. It just focuses on the experience, and there's not a bunch of filler content, and you can just kind of get through the game quickly, which as I get older, I'm liking that more and more. Games that are really fast, that you can just kind of binge through, versus games that are, if a game is like super bloated and gonna take me forever to replay, then I'm not going to be as interested in probably replaying that, which is a problem with like Wind Waker, and even Twilight Princess. That's a downside for that. So Link Between Worlds, favorite Zelda game. I love it so much. All right, and in 8th place is my favorite multiplayer video game ever, and that is Mario Kart Double Dash. And this one is very biased. I am very biased with this. I have just massive astronomical level of nostalgia for Double Dash. It is probably like my favorite childhood game. I would play it all the time. The memories of it are so strong. I have like these core memories associated with Double Dash, and I love it so much. The music, the charm, the course design, like everything is just so perfect. I love the janky controls. I love like how difficult it is. You can just be driving on Rainbow Road or a bridge on Dino Jungle, and all of a sudden you just kind of just like fall off. You just kind of drive over like a board of wood on the bridge in a way that it bounces your car, and if you don't know what you're doing, you just kind of like just drive off the track. It's insane. It's crazy. I would hate it if I didn't grow up with it, probably, because it's so janky, but I love it. I think it's so fun. It's a difficult, challenging game that's fun with friends, and it's just a wacky Mario Kart good time, and it is my favorite multiplayer game. Okay, so top 7. Now, this is where my list gets super tight. Like, if I had to say of my top 25, like the games that I really, really just adore, like just my favorite of the favorite, I could never see myself like not wanting to replay them ever again. It would be these 7. I love all of these almost equally, and it's very difficult to make decisions between them. But in number 7 is the one I love the least, which is Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. It is my favorite 2D platformer game, one of my absolute favorite games, and definitely my favorite game on the Wii U. It is just so phenomenal. The music by David Wise, the visuals, like the graphics are so crisp in this game. Retro Studios did an incredible job. The controls are great, the boss design, the level design, and really like one of the best things is the kind of the overarching story within each world. Like, you know, there's like the Savannah world where things are on fire and it's just like immaculately themed. But then there's of course the jungle world where in each level you kind of follow along the actual story of the location of the setting, where the bad guys are taking fruit and cutting it up and stuff and turning it into juice, and then they're freezing it into popsicles to give to the boss, who's the polar bear, who's the final boss of that world. So just that overarching story, and then going back to Donkey Kong Island at the end of the game and seeing it frozen over, it's incredible. It's the best 2D platformer of all time, I have no doubt about that. In 6th place is Cuphead, which I know in the past I considered that sort of a 2D platformer, but I've wisened up and I've realized it's clearly not a 2D platformer, though it does have 2D platform elements to it. But of course it is a run and gun, kind of a 2D shooter in a sense, more of like an arcade style game. And the hand-drawn animation, the music, the charm and originality, the difficulty level, I love Cuphead so much. I just love everything about it. It is my favorite game, like, of the last, I guess, the last decade, I suppose. I mean, the only other game high up on the list was DK Tropical Freeze, which was 11 years old, and then Pikmin 4 in 11th. So, like, besides Pikmin 4, Cuphead is, like, the best game of recent years, like, for my entire top 15. So it's very great that it was able to, to beat a lot of games that I'm very nostalgic for, because I didn't think at this point in my life I would still like find a new game that I love as much as some of my classics, and yet here we are with Cuphead at number 6, and I love it so much. It's a perfect game. In 5th place is my favorite non-Nintendo game, and in fact favorite non-Mario game, and that is Spyro the Dragon, specifically the Spyro Reignited trilogy of games. The remaster is so fantastic. I love it so much, and I can replay these games again and again and again. They were a huge part of my childhood, and I love the music, the level design. I love how fast you can just play through it and 100% the game in just a matter of, like 4, 5, 6 hours each. It's fantastic. I am obsessed with the Spyro trilogy, and I would say Year of the Dragon is my favorite, but the original Spyro the Dragon is very close behind, and all three of those games combined as the trilogy do come in at number 5. Okay, and here is my big 4. Depending on the day, these move around all the time. And in number 4, as of today, is Super Mario 64. I love this game. It was my first video game I ever played in my entire life. It came out actually a few months after I was born, and some of my earliest memories when I was 3 years old was watching my dad play Super Mario 64, and I just wanted to play, but I didn't understand what to do. I barely understood how to move around or do anything, and I think all I could do really was just run around outside Peach's castle, and I just remember it like so vividly. And like for a little kid, a 3-year-old in the 90s, like the graphics were just so imaginative, and like just thinking back to that time is like more than nostalgia for me. It's like a whole nother level. It's weird, like I can't even put into words. But besides the nostalgia and all that too, though, I mean, it was a pioneering game for 3D game development, and the music, the level design is also great. I also love how it's like a pure 3D Mario. There's no FLUDD, there's no Luma helping you out, there's no Cappy. Like, it's just Mario doing his best out there, and the platforming is very difficult. The camera, of course, is pretty bad, but yeah, I love it. I know it doesn't age the best, it hasn't aged the best, but it's still, it's just, to me, one of the most important games ever, and I completely am in love with it and always will be. But in third place is Super Mario Sunshine, which makes Sunshine my favorite 3D Mario game. Now, this and 64 do go back and forth quite a bit, but these days I think Sunshine is pretty firmly in first place. I understand, there's some hate for the unfinished, unpolished aspects of the game, the difficult levels, which I personally don't find very difficult, the glitches, the blue coins, I will admit I don't love and would prefer different types of levels in their place. But yeah, I mean, I love it. I love the janky, crazy voiceover work, voice acting, and I love the setting, the level design, theme, the storyline. It's just so fantastic. More than anything, more than any other 3D Mario, it's just I feel like I'm home when I'm playing Mario Sunshine. It feels very cozy, very comfortable. It feels like a place I grew up in, and like Delfino Plaza is the best hub world in 3D platforming history, in my opinion. And it just feels so alive. I mean, the game was just ahead of its time in a sense, with the world building and the water physics and the water graphics and stuff. And yeah, I mean, I could go on and on about the game, but also the controls. Like, I think it's the best controlling 3D Mario game. And that includes Mario Odyssey. I think the controls are so tight, and FLUDD can be a little weird sometimes, but like doing wall jumps and moving around, everything has a nice weight to it, and it feels so nice to string moves together in Sunshine. And yeah, it is my third favorite game of all time. And that brings us to our top two, which, no surprise, are both Paper Mario games. And second place is going to be, as always, the Thousand Year Door. Now, as far as which version of the game this is, it doesn't matter either way. I would say both of them are my second favorite game of all time. I do like the original GameCube game marginally more than the Switch remake, but if I counted them separately, the Switch remake would basically be ranked number 3 on this list, and then the GameCube would be ranked number 2. So they are, for all intents and purposes, ranked equally at number 2. So yeah, I mean, why is it so high all the time? It's the characters, the story, the world building, the dread of the story, and the tone that it sets. You know, the partners are so well depicted and have so much personality. The controls, the audience feature, you know, the battle system. I mean, just everything. It's literally so close to a perfect game. I can complain about some things with some of the level design and the backtracking, which some of that is fixed in the Switch remake, but then it has some new issues, like slow text and a lot of the classic sound effects getting removed from the original game. But I love the Thousand Year Door. It makes me very happy and very cozy when I play it, and it's my second favorite game of all time. And of course, that leads us to my favorite game of all time. This has always been my favorite game of all time, and I am sure will always continue to be, even if the greatest, most perfect 3D Mario game for me released, or the best Paper Mario game ever released, that had 18 full levels, full crystal stars in it, and 12 partners that were the best partners. I would still like the original Paper Mario as my number 1 game of all time. I just cannot possibly see that getting replaced. In fact, I think the only thing that could replace it would be if they did a faithful remaster of the game that maintained the pixel art, the sprites, but made them in HD, and then remastered the soundtrack and added post-game content and additional features and functionality. That would probably be my favorite game, because that game needs a remake so much, but it better keep the sprites. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying here. I don't want it to look like the Thousand Year Door remake. It needs to look like the Paper Mario storybook style with the sprite art design. But yeah, it's just Paper Mario 1. It's my I can't even, I'm not gonna sit here and explain why I have other videos on the topic, but I'm obsessed with it. To me, like lately, especially when I think about the Thousand Year Door and I think about Paper Mario 64, I like Paper Mario 64 like 4 times more than Thousand Year Door. It used to be very close, but now like it's not even close. Like when I think about the first Paper Mario game, it gives me so much joy. It makes me feel so happy, and like everything is okay. And it was such an important part of my childhood. It made my imagination like wild. Like when I was in school, I had all these creative ideas, and a lot of them spawned from like playing that game. I just found it to be so creative. I love the characters, I love the locations and the music, and it is my favorite piece of media. You know, I like it more than like any movie, any TV show, anything that's a form of entertainment media. Paper Mario is my number one. So yeah, it means a lot to me. I'm very close to that game, and we'll never really be able to fully explain why, but it's a perfect video game in my opinion, and it's a significant part of my life, and it has inspired a lot of who I am as a person, especially as a creative person. And yeah, I hope everybody will play it if you have not already. But that is my list. I hope you enjoyed the conversation and seeing some of the stop motion on screen that I was working on that unfortunately I did not finish. But thank you for being here. I do have a very exciting Paper Mario video coming out soon, and then we'll be talking lots about the Switch 2 in just a couple months. But that's all I have for today. Thank you for being one of my 5,000 subscribers, and I will talk to you guys later. See ya.